What's going on this beautiful day? It is August 24th, 2020, and you are tuned into WatchFest TV with your girl Plump, and I'm back with another review video. But before I get started, I would like to bless your day with the quote of the day, which reads, "You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think," by the poet A.A. Mine. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell for the latest videos. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Lovecraft Country, Season 1, Episode 2. The show pretty much starts with Uncle George and Letty enjoying their stay. They're pretty much enjoying the clothes that was given to them and just the structure of the home. You know, they're not used to being in anything like this. But Atticus, he's pretty much suspicious of what's going on. Why are they so friendly? So they all meet up in the hallway, and as they're talking, William, who's the white man who opened the door in the first episode, pretty much appears out of nowhere. Now Atticus starts to ask questions because at this point William states that Atticus' father is now in Boston and has no proper date for his return. So Atticus is getting real suspicious because the story is fishy. So now William is pretty much not open to talk about Atticus' father, but he is open to talk about the history of the home and its owner, you know, as he's walking them down to have lunch. Now, Atticus does ask William if it's okay to walk around the home, you know, just to get out for some air. And William, although he was hesitant in the beginning, he pretty much told them it was okay for them to do so. William then walks off, and Atticus begins to share with Uncle George that he's feeling a bit uncomfortable. He's saying, you know, what white man you know opens up his doors just freely like that? Something is wrong. But Uncle George is pretty much saying, give them the benefit of the doubt. They've been nice to us so far. What is the issue? But during this conversation, Atticus realized that Uncle George and Letty don't remember the night before. They do not remember the attack from the vampires. They do not remember getting to that property. They don't remember anything at all. Atticus is the only one that remembers. So now Letty and Uncle George are pretty much saying, hey, you know, maybe this is a war thing, you know, maybe this thing never really happened. But Atticus assists like, yo, this thing really happened. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why you guys don't remember, but this is a true story. Now, after lunch, they do decide to take that walk along the property. And as they take that walk, they found the car that was crashed up and beat up from the incident before. They found it and nothing was wrong with it. All the windows was there. The car was fully functionable. And so it raised red flags with Atticus, because he's like, yo, you know, this car was damaged the night before. And again, William appears out of nowhere pretty much says, hey, you know, I found this car on the side of the road as is. Nothing was wrong with it. It was just parked there. Now Atticus is like, okay, something is really going on because I know for a fact this car was damaged. So now later on that night, the three decide to walk into the forest. Now a little before then, Atticus, George, and Letty ran into what seemed like the help, okay, to keep the slaves intact. Okay, it was a woman who had the whistle that scared off the animals in the first place. So when Atticus heard the whistle, he ran to where he heard it from, and it was this woman holding on to the whistle. Now she gave me creepy vibes. She gave me racist vibes, you know what I'm saying? And it rubbed the three the wrong way, but they felt as if she was hiding something in the, I would say, lighthouse or meat cellar, and they wanted to go back and investigate. So they were walking along late that night, and again the vampires appeared. Now before the vampires appeared, Uncle George pretty much had an epiphany or a remembrance of a conversation that he had with Atticus' mother about a secret birthright before hearing a strange noise. So once that, you know, they heard that noise, it was the vampires. They appeared, and once again the whistle goes off and those big ugly things, they disappear. But what appears is the white woman that was in the first episode. She seems to be the owner of the home daughter, and she's persistent. He insists for them to return back to the home, into their rooms, which they did, an exception for Atticus, who goes and speaks to the owner of the home, who automatically talks about sacrifice, from the gate. So they return back to the home. Uncle George and Letty are placed in their rooms, but Uncle George ends up finding a book that leads to a secret library office where he finds another book, which kind of sets it off for his idea. Atticus finds himself in a room with the owner of the home and his daughter, and they are reciting what seems to be Bible verses. And time and time again, the owner refers to himself as Adam and saying that, I've worked hard to get to this paradise. But the daughter is pretty much reassuring Atticus that not all white people are bad, which I can agree with that. Not all white people are bad people, just like not all, black people are good people. It's the same thing, but racism do exist till this day. Now, as they continue the conversation, Atticus realized that it was a spell that was placed on Uncle George and Letty, because they can't remember anything that happened. They can't remember having the conversation with William. They can't remember the attacks from the vampire from the episode 1, and during this episode they pretty much can't remember anything. So Atticus pretty much realizes that it's a spell and asks for the daughter to remove the spell from the uncle and Letty, which she does, but she also confines all three to the room where they can't get out at this point. Definitely giving me a Get Out vibe, okay? Because later on we can see that another spell was placed on the three, where Letty fantasized about Atticus, where Uncle George fantasized about what seemed to be his first wife, and Atticus pretty much fantasized about a Chinese soldier coming to kill him. So all three pretty much were challenged and had to fight their way out of this illusion. And when they did, we realized that it was a room full of white folk having a party, okay, watching the outcome of the spell. I feel like they should have called that scene Looking Glass, because the way these white folk was drinking and having a good old time at the expense of three black folks, it was ridiculous and it was sad, and it felt like a looking glass pretty much. So later on, we see that they were released, and again, they meet up in the hallway, but Letty seems uncomfortable because, again, her spell, her fantasy was about Atticus. So now seeing him in person it's kind of weird. It's kind of because now I know that I have feelings for him because he was who I fantasized about. So seeing him in person now is a bit awkward. So now Uncle George reassured the two that no matter what you've seen, no matter what they've shown you, you are still a good person. It doesn't matter what you think you did, you are still a good person. This is what they want from you. They want to break you in order to get to you. So don't let them have that kind of power over you. I think it was a cool lesson to learn. That's a lesson to learn for everyone. Don't give them that power over your life, because your life matters. Uncle George and Atticus is invited to a weird dinner. They're told to dress up, which they do, but they are separated from the rest of the guests. Now, the owner of the home starts to speak, and automatically, again, it is about sacrifice, so you already know what they're there for. But at the same time, Uncle George decides to get up and speak his mind. Now, remember, Uncle George found a book in that secret library, and in that book Uncle George found out that this is a Freemason party, okay? And back then colored men could not join the Freemasons, but there was a loophole, okay? Now, men who were direct descendants of Titus were automatically members, and Atticus was the last descendant from the Titus clan, so that made him automatically a member of the Freemason. So because of the fact that Atticus was discovered as the last descendant of Titus, he is now placed above each white man that sits in that room. He now has control over what's going on, or so he thinks. So he asked everyone, hey, I want y'all to get the fuck up out of here. I need y'all to leave. But the first ask, no one actually moved. It was the second time he was asked, or they were asked, that they actually got up and left. But the owner of the home let Atticus know, the only reason why you're here is because I still need you. If I didn't, you would not be here. So that kind of sends off like, okay, red flags there. So now Letty, Uncle George, and Atticus decides it's time for us to leave. But as they're leaving, they decide to go check out that meat cellar because, again, it was suspicious at that time. So now they go down to that meat cellar and they're looking around because, again, the only reason why they're there is because Atticus' father is missing. He wrote Atticus to come and save him, and Atticus is now there ready to look for his father. So they go down to that meat cellar, and at the same time, this weird lady, again, who gave me the help vibe, she comes down and she's like, you guys are always sticking your nose in places it ain't supposed to be, and tries to threaten them, not before Letty comes down and pretty much takes her out. So they realize it's a hole here. Someone is now digging themselves out, and we should go ahead and meet them up top, which they do. Now when they do reach up top, they realize it's Atticus' father digging himself out, looking like he needs no help. And once he gets up out of that hole, he's pretty much mad that they're there. He's like, hey man, I didn't need any help, I could have got myself out. But Atticus is like, hey, you wrote me. I didn't know what was going on. You told me to come save you. But his father seems like he doesn't care. He's like, look, I didn't ask you to come get me. You out here coming to get me over a little letter. I could have saved myself. So fucked up. So now Atticus is like, man, this is the shit that I've been talking about. We never had a good relationship. Here I am trying to do something nice for your whack ass, and this is how you treat me. So he ends up getting in the car. They all end up getting in the car thinking it's a free way out. They're leaving. And once they get by the bridge, it's a whole spell wall that they crash into. And now they're pretty much stuck there. So now as they make their way out of the car, they realize that the owner has now driven up to them with a handgun and his daughter. And he's like, look, you guys ain't leaving. Either you give yourself up or we're going to start shooting people. And the first person he shot was Letty. And Atticus pretty much watched Letty bleed out until she died. Uncle George could not help. It was pretty much her all by herself, and she felt herself die. Okay? So now, in the same time, the owner is like, either you give yourself up or we're going to keep shooting folk, and shoots Uncle George. So now at that time, Atticus is like, yo, no one else is getting hurt for me. I'll turn myself in. I'll be your sacrifice. So they return back to the house, and they start to get ready for what seems to be a sacrifice ceremony. But before then, the daughter goes and she speaks to Atticus, and they have a heart-to-heart. These two seem as if they connect on a whole nother level, like they get each other. Now, during that conversation, the daughter gives Atticus a ring, and a little subliminal with that ring, okay? But she gives it to him anyway as a gift, and she exits out. Now, Letty runs into the bathroom when she comes to, because, again, this is a witchcraft home. They brought her back to life, and now she's alive, all right? But now Uncle George is still battling his wounds. It just seems as if he's going to go at this point. Now, Letty runs into the bathroom. Again, she felt herself die, so she's in complete shock. She's losing her mind, because in her mind, she was gone, okay? At the same time, it shows them getting ready to pretty much sacrifice Atticus with this Freemason spell going on. And so Atticus is in the middle of the whole thing. He's screaming. It's painful, but at the same time, he looks into the hole and sees a reflection of what seems to be his ancestor. Now, when all of this is going on, the ring starts to give off pretty much, I believe, a safety net to save him from whatever it is that they got going on. So long story short, Atticus ends up finding his way out with the help of his ancestor. And when he gets outside, because at this point the house crumbles down, everyone in it. Is either you got out or you died, pretty much. And Atticus found his way out, again with the help of his ancestor. But when he makes his way out, Letty greets him, but she doesn't seem too happy. She's happy that he's out, but at the same time, she doesn't seem too happy. Now, when Atticus walks to the car, he realizes that Uncle George is now gone. He passed away. And this was like the saddest scene, because George was his support system. George is who he went home to in the first episode. This is who he knew as his father. So when George died, it was pretty much a great impact on Atticus. So pretty much the show ends with the death of Uncle George, but I would love to see how the next episode will start off. Please comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. I think it's going to be pretty hard to continue without Uncle George. He knew the roads. He knew the map. He was the brain. He knew his shits. But for some reason, I feel as though it's not the end of Uncle George. This is a show that brings people back to life. So I really do feel like he still has a chance. Maybe he'll come back in spirit, but I really do believe that he has a chance. Again, comment down below. Let me know where you pretty much the line this thing is taking. Where is this storyline going? Comment down below. Let me know.